So we keep hearing about this so-called housing crisis, housing crisis, housing crisis, housing crisis. And I'm here to tell you that this is not really a housing crisis. This is a policy crisis. So how do you solve a housing crisis? You've got plenty of land. You've got a lot of people who are capable of building houses. And in fact, you've got a lot of houses already. Okay. There's two things that we need to look at. One, are your neighborhoods safe? Two, can you get jobs there? Those are the things that we really mean by I can't find, you know, I can't afford a home, right? Because there are always homes out there, but they just not might not be in the location that you want because it's too far away from your job or it's an unsafe neighborhood. It's not the kind of place that you can relax, have peace and quiet, and raise your children with confidence and and peace. Okay. So those are the two things that really limit people's ability to buy homes. Okay. Because again, there are plenty of houses already out there. And even if there weren't, you could build more. All right. And so you don't really have these housing crisis problems in states, meaning countries, that really actually know how to look out after their people, right? Because either they'll simply build them and then wait for the population to go up there. So it's an investment, right? You already build it, you know the population is increasing, they come in, and then you already set it up so that those cities have a robust economy that's localized it. Okay. Because so um that's actually what we mean by a housing crisis, that there's a lack of safe neighborhoods with access to good jobs. Okay, one and two, always these two items. One, safe neighborhoods, two, localized economics. All right. Okay, so if you can figure out how to do that, and it's actually relatively easy, the first one, how do you have safe neighborhoods? Well, you have to actually do things like cultural reform. You have to actually have police. You have to actually embolden them, encourage them to actually deal with what we consider smaller petty crimes, right? Somebody's blasting music. You need to cut that out. Somebody is having a rambunctious late night party. You need to go shut that down, right? These things actually need to be enforced. You cannot let your dogs behave that they as they do in a very disruptive manner. All right. So even if you're poor, you get to live in a safe neighborhood as a consequence. What about localized economics? That's kind of another thing here. Um, and there's a lot to look at. But if you think about it, it's not a bad idea that a state can have its own tariffs. Like if you're an American, you have 50 different states, right? And you have many counties within that. For there to be some kind of trade barrier might not be such a bad thing. It's prohibited essentially by the Constitution. I mean, you need congressional approval and never get you get that nowadays, especially. But because of that high difficulty of actually enacting local trade barriers and local trade friction, you really set up a situation where one city, like for example, San Jose in the local area, will dominate a whole industry. We call that Silicon Valley, right? If you look at New York, it dominates finances. Or if you look at LA, it dominates entertainment. So you have this kind of thing happen because of a lack of trade barriers. And there's other things that you could do. I mean, you could do subsidies and other stuff. But if you're overly ideological and say, oh, that's not capitalism or just that's socialism, communism, or whatever you want to call it, um, if you are just going to see things in terms of ideology and not really think about what actually works and the ability to actually withdraw that when we need to and implement it when we need to, right? If you're not going to be flexible, then your people are going to suffer. And that's why we have the so-called housing crisis. It's not really a housing crisis, all right? It's simply bad governing.